Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins. Picture this: a man named W. Mitchell riding his motorcycle at 65 miles per hour when his entire world explodes in twisted metal and searing flames. The accident leaves 3/4 of his body covered in third-degree burns. But he refuses to quit. He claws his way back, rebuilds everything, becomes a thriving businessman. Then fate delivers a second devastating blow, a plane crash that paralyzes him from the waist down, permanently. Now imagine someone completely different, John Belushi. Before he's even 25, he's already a sensation, a comedic force of nature who lights up every room, every screen, every stage he touches. He's got the whole package: fame, fortune, multiple homes, close friends, and a wife who adores him. This is the guy who makes the entire planet laugh. So if you had to pick one of these lives, which one would you choose? Seems pretty straightforward, right? Here's where it gets interesting. W. Mitchell, the man who survived unimaginable suffering, went on to become a millionaire and a magnetic public speaker. He even launched a congressional campaign with the cheeky slogan, "Send me to Congress, and I won't be just another pretty face." He found profound love and lived a life overflowing with joy and purpose. John Belushi, the man who appeared to have won life's lottery, died at 33 from a drug overdose. All that immense talent and brilliant light snuffed out, years of internal struggles finally catching up with him. On the outside, he had everything. On the inside, he'd been running on fumes for years. So what's going on here? What's the secret ingredient that makes the difference? Why can one person take life's absolute worst punches and create something beautiful, while another person, handed every advantage, ends in heartbreak? That's the most crucial question you could ever wrestle with, and it's the question that consumed a young man named Anthony Robbins. Not too long ago, he was just a struggling kid crammed into a tiny 400-square-foot apartment, doing his dishes in the bathtub, carrying extra weight, with barely a glimmer of hope for his future. Fast forward a few years, and he'd completely transformed his reality. Healthy, fulfilled, remarkably successful, advising world leaders and elite athletes from his oceanside castle overlooking the Pacific. How'd he pull that off? He uncovered something profound. Success isn't some random accident. It's not pixie dust, and it's definitely not luck. He discovered there's an actual science to achievement, a collection of powerful, learnable skills that let you take direct, purposeful control of your own mind, your emotions, and ultimately your entire life. He laid out these revolutionary tools in his landmark book, Unlimited Power. Today we're diving deep into that science. I'm going to walk you through the core principles that catapulted Tony Robbins from barely surviving to absolute mastery. And here's my promise: by the time we're done, you'll understand the fundamental mechanics of your brain and body in ways you never imagined possible. You won't just learn about power. You'll discover how to unlock the power that's been sitting dormant inside you all along. So where does this journey actually begin? It starts with the most fundamental truth about being human. Your life, right at this very moment, is a direct result of how you communicate. And I'm not just talking about conversations with other people. I'm talking about the endless dialogue you have with yourself. Think about it for a second. The quality of your life really comes down to the quality of your emotions. When you're feeling confident, joyful, or deeply connected, life feels like magic. When you're drowning in frustration, fear, or sadness, life can feel completely unbearable. But where do these feelings actually come from? Most people assume their feelings are just reactions to external events. A rough day at school, an argument with someone you care about, bombing a test. These things happen to us, so naturally we feel terrible. But here's where Robbins drops a truth bomb. Nothing has any meaning except the meaning we assign to it. How you feel isn't really about what's happening to you. It's about your interpretation of what's happening to you. It's the narrative you're telling yourself. You are not your behaviors. You're not your emotions either. You're the director of your own mental movie. You have the power to create depression, and you equally have the power to create pure joy. The real question is, how? What are the actual controls? Robbins figured out that at any given moment, our experience of life is determined by what he calls our neurophysiological state, or just our state for short. A state is essentially the sum total of what's happening in your mind and body right now. There are resourceful states, things like confidence, excitement, determination, love, where you feel like you could take on the world. Then there are unresourceful states, fear, confusion, overwhelm, where even brushing your teeth feels impossibly difficult. Have you ever had one of those magical days where you were just completely on? Every joke landed perfectly, every conversation flowed effortlessly, and you felt absolutely unstoppable? Then there are those other days where nothing seems to go right, where you feel awkward and clumsy. Same person, same brain, same body, same history. The only thing that changed was your state. The highest achievers in the world aren't necessarily blessed with more raw talent. They've simply mastered their own state. They've figured out how to consistently put themselves into a resourceful state, regardless of external circumstances. Which brings us to the next obvious question. If our state controls our results, what controls our state? Robbins tells us there are two master controls, two levers you can pull anytime to immediately transform how you feel. The first and most powerful lever is your physiology. Your mind and body aren't separate entities. They're a deeply interconnected feedback loop. You literally cannot change one without immediately affecting the other. Your posture, your breathing, your facial expressions, how you move. These aren't just reflections of how you feel. They're also the creators of how you feel. Think about what depression looks like physically. Shoulders hunched forward, head hanging down, shallow breathing, sluggish movements. A depressed person is literally creating the state of depression with their body. It actually takes effort to maintain. Now try something with me. Seriously, do this right now. Stand up, roll your shoulders back, lift your head high, take a deep breath that fills your entire chest. Plaster a huge, ridiculous smile on your face. I mean, really commit to it, make your cheeks ache. Now, while you're standing like that, try to feel depressed. You can't, right? It's virtually impossible. Your brain is receiving a crystal clear, undeniable signal from your body. We are powerful, we are alert, we are happy. This is the fastest, most direct way to shift your state. Before a major test, before asking someone out, before any moment tinged with fear or uncertainty, you can radically change how you feel in literal seconds just by changing your physical state. Act as if you're already confident. Act as if you've already succeeded. Stand the way you would stand. Breathe the way you would breathe. And your mind will naturally follow your body's lead. This is the hidden purpose behind one of Robbins' most famous and often misunderstood tools, the fire walk. He doesn't teach people to walk barefoot across burning coals because it's a practical life skill. He does it to prove a point in the most visceral, unforgettable way imaginable. The people who successfully walk across those 15 feet of glowing embers are the exact same people who, just hours before, believed with absolute certainty that it was impossible. What changed? He taught them how to take complete control of their physiology. He showed them how to change their breathing, their posture, and their focus, until they entered a state of such absolute certainty that fear became irrelevant. The fire walk is really a metaphor. It demonstrates that what you once thought was an absolute limit was actually just a limiting belief. And if you can shatter that belief, what else becomes possible? So physiology is the first lever. It's immediate and incredibly powerful. The second lever for controlling your state is your internal representation, or more simply, what you focus on and what you tell yourself. Think of your mind as a private movie theater. You're the director, and you have complete control over what plays on the screen. You choose the images, the sounds, the narration, everything. If you want to feel absolutely terrible, you can screen a highlight reel of every mistake you've ever made. You can crank up the volume on your inner critic, that voice insisting you're not good enough. You can make those images enormous, vivid, and overwhelming. Or you can choose to play a completely different movie. You can focus on a moment when you felt proud, when you achieved something meaningful, when you felt deeply loved and valued. You can amplify the voice that says, "You've got this." You can make those positive images bigger, brighter, and more compelling than any negative thought could ever be. Successful people are absolute masters of focus. When they encounter a challenge, they don't fixate on the problem. They zero in on the solution. They don't obsess over what might go wrong. They visualize exactly what it'll feel like when everything goes right. W. Mitchell didn't dwell on being burned and paralyzed. He focused intensely on the possibilities that remained open to him. He represented his situation not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity to show the world and himself what he was truly capable of. So we've got our state, which is controlled by our physiology and our internal representations, but there's one more layer, a deeper force, acting as the master controller for both. It's the ultimate filter through which we experience everything. This is the power of belief. Beliefs are like the commanding officers of your brain. When you believe something with absolute certainty, it's like issuing an unquestionable order to your entire nervous system. Your beliefs determine what you notice, how you interpret events, and what you decide is possible or impossible. There's a classic saying, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. And it's profoundly, undeniably true. If you believe you're terrible at learning, how much of your actual potential will you tap into? How much genuine effort will you invest? Your belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you believe you can succeed, you send a completely different command to your brain. You access more of your potential. You take more massive, determined action. Those actions produce better results, which reinforce your belief that you can succeed. This creates an upward spiral, a snowball effect of success. The story of legendary cellist Pablo Casals is a stunning example. In his 90s, his body was ravaged by arthritis and emphysema. Simply getting out of bed was an agonizing struggle. His hands were clenched and swollen, barely functional. But every single morning he would shuffle painfully over to his piano. With tremendous effort, he'd place his stiff, gnarled fingers on the keys. And then something miraculous would happen. As he began to play, his entire body transformed, his back straightened, his breathing became smooth and easy. His fingers, moments before clenched in pain, would unlock and dance gracefully across the keyboard with the fluidity and power of a young virtuoso. His belief in the transcendent power of music literally commanded his physiology to change. It overrode the physical limitations of his aged body. For those precious moments, he wasn't a frail old man. He was pure, living music. Our beliefs aren't just abstract philosophical ideas floating around in our heads. They're the architects of our reality. They can make us sick, and they can make us well. They can ensure we fail, and they can propel us to succeed. So if beliefs are this powerful, where do they come from? And more importantly, can we actually choose them? The answer is an emphatic yes. The birth of excellence begins the moment you realize that your beliefs are a choice. You can deliberately choose beliefs that empower you, or you can unconsciously hold on to beliefs that limit you. Robbins shares 7 fundamental beliefs he's discovered in virtually every highly successful person he's ever studied. He playfully calls them the 7 lies of success. Why lies? Because we can't prove with absolute certainty that they're objectively true about the universe. But we do know they work, they're useful, they're empowering. Adopting them is like upgrading to a high-performance operating system for your mind. Let's explore a few of them. Belief number 1. Everything happens for a reason and a purpose, and it serves us. Successful people believe there are no mistakes, only lessons. Every setback, every disappointment, contains the seed of an equal or greater benefit. They don't see themselves as helpless victims of circumstance. They view challenges as opportunities to become stronger, wiser, and more capable. This belief transforms what others would call a problem into an unexpected gift. Belief number 2. There's no such thing as failure. There are only results. This one's a complete game changer. What if you could never fail again for the rest of your life? This belief makes it possible. If you try something and don't get the outcome you wanted, you haven't failed. You've simply produced a result. You've learned what doesn't work. And that information is incredibly valuable. Thomas Edison didn't fail 999 times to invent the light bulb. He said he successfully discovered 999 ways not to make a light bulb. It's all about the framing. With this belief, you're free to take bold action without the paralyzing fear of failure holding you back. Belief number 3. Whatever happens, take responsibility. Great leaders and achievers believe they create their own world. They don't blame circumstances, other people, or fate. They believe they're responsible for their results, good or bad. This isn't about self-blame. It's about claiming your power. If you're responsible, you have the power to change things. If someone else is to blame, you're just a victim, and you're powerless. By taking responsibility, you reclaim your power to shape your own destiny. These empowering beliefs form the foundation. But having a great belief system alone isn't enough. You need a strategy. You need a clear path to follow. This brings us to one of the most powerful concepts in the entire book, modeling. Robbins says that success leaves clues. People who've achieved excellence aren't just lucky. They do specific things, both mentally and physically, to produce their extraordinary results. And if you can discover precisely what they do and replicate those actions, you can achieve similar results. This is the ultimate shortcut to success. Instead of spending years fumbling through trial and error, you can find someone who's already achieved what you want, whether that's financial independence, being an amazing parent, or mastering a sport, and you can model them. You can compress decades of learning into days. So how do you actually model someone? Robbins breaks it down into 3 fundamental areas you must replicate. First, you need to model their belief system. What do they believe about themselves, their work, and what's possible? We've already seen how crucial this is. Second, you must model their mental syntax. This is the specific way they organize their thoughts. It's the exact recipe they use in their mind. What do they visualize? What do they say to themselves? And in what precise order? A phone number has 7 digits, but dial them in the wrong sequence and you won't connect. The same principle applies to our minds. There's a specific sequence of thoughts that produces motivation, another for creativity, another for falling in love. A brilliant example is the spelling strategy. Robbins discovered that excellent spellers all use the same mental syntax. When they encounter a word, they don't try to sound it out. Instead, they look up and to their left and create a clear, vivid mental picture of the word. They literally see it in their mind's eye. Poor spellers, on the other hand, often try to spell by feeling or by sound, which is wildly unreliable in English. When Robbins taught struggling spellers to use the visual strategy of natural spellers, their abilities transformed, sometimes in a matter of minutes. He hadn't made them smarter, he just handed them a better strategy. The third element you must model is their physiology. How do they use their body? How do they stand, breathe, and move when they're performing at their peak? As we've already learned, physiology is a direct line to your state. This idea of modeling is actually how the science of neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, was born. Its founders, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, set out to model the world's most effective therapists. They wanted to understand how these geniuses created profound change in people so rapidly. They discovered the specific patterns of language, focus, and behavior these master therapists used, and they codified them so others could learn to produce the same remarkable results. NLP provides the specific how-to tools for operating your own brain, and one of its most practical tools is understanding submodalities. Submodalities are the building blocks of your internal representations. Remember the movie director analogy? As the director of your mind, you can adjust the characteristics of your internal images and sounds. You can change their brightness, their size, their distance, their volume, their speed. Ever had a negative memory that keeps haunting you? A moment when you felt embarrassed or hurt? Take that memory and, in your imagination, transform it into a small, black and white, blurry picture. Now push it far away until it's just a tiny speck. As you do that, notice how the emotional sting attached to it diminishes. You've just changed its submodalities, and in doing so, you've changed its power over you. Now, think of a time you felt incredibly happy and successful. Take that memory and make the picture bigger, brighter, more vibrant. Turn up the sounds. Bring it closer until it completely surrounds you. Feel how that intensifies the positive emotions flooding through you. This isn't some mental parlor trick. This is you taking deliberate control of the coding in your own brain. You can systematically change how you feel about anything, from cravings for junk food to fear of public speaking, simply by changing its submodalities. One of the most powerful NLP techniques using this principle is the swish pattern. It's a brilliant method for changing unwanted habits or behaviors. First, you create a big, bright picture of the behavior you want to change. Let's say you see yourself reaching for a cigarette. Then, in the bottom corner of that picture, you place a small, dark image of your desired self, a vibrant, healthy, energetic non-smoker. Then, with an explosive whoosh sound, you have that small picture of your desired self rapidly expand and literally smash through the old picture of the unwanted behavior. You repeat this process 5 or 6 times, faster and faster each round. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. What you're actually doing is creating a new neurological pathway in your brain. You're training your brain so that the very thought that used to trigger the old, unwanted behavior now automatically triggers the new, empowering image of your desired self. The old pathway gets neurologically short-circuited. It's a remarkably effective way to reprogram your own mind for success. All these tools, state management, belief transformation, modeling, submodalities, are components of what Robbins calls the ultimate success formula. It's a straightforward, four-step process that lies at the heart of all achievement. Step 1. Know your outcome. You need to know with absolute precision what you want. Not some vague idea, but a crystal-clear, sensory-rich vision. What will you see, hear, and feel when you've achieved it? Most people have no clue what they truly want, so they drift through life, accepting whatever comes their way. Achievers are laser-focused and specific. Step 2. Take action. Knowing isn't nearly enough. You must take massive, determined action. The most successful people aren't necessarily the smartest or most talented. They're the ones who consistently take the most action. Step 3. Develop sensory acuity. As you take action, you must pay close attention to the results you're generating. Are your actions moving you closer to your goal or pushing you further away? You have to be able to read the feedback the world is giving you. Step 4. Have the flexibility to change. This is the crucial final piece. If what you're doing isn't working, you must be willing to change your approach. You keep adjusting, adapting, trying new angles, until you achieve the outcome you desire. It's not about failure. It's about feedback and flexibility. Think about Steven Spielberg. As a teenager, he knew his outcome with absolute clarity. He wanted to direct movies. He took action by sneaking onto the Universal Studios lot. He developed sensory acuity by carefully observing directors, writers, and editors, absorbing what worked. And he had flexibility. When a simple studio tour didn't get him where he needed to be, he changed his approach, put on a suit, and walked confidently past the guard as if he belonged there. He followed this formula relentlessly until he became the most successful filmmaker in history. Now, once you've mastered your internal world, how do you use these skills to genuinely connect with and influence others? This is where Robbins introduces the magic of rapport. Rapport is that special feeling of total connection, trust, and understanding between people. It's the essential foundation of all successful communication. And the fastest way to build it is surprisingly simple. Be like the other person. People naturally like people who are like themselves. But this goes much deeper than just sharing common interests. Robbins explains that true rapport is built on a subconscious level by matching and mirroring another person's physiology and language patterns. When you're with someone, subtly match their posture, mirror their gestures, match the rhythm and tonality of their voice, even match their breathing rate. When you do this skillfully, you're sending a powerful, unconscious signal to their brain. I am like you. I understand you. It creates a deep and almost instant feeling of connection. This isn't about manipulation. When you're truly in rapport, you actually begin to experience the world from their perspective. It's the deepest form of empathy. When you speak to people using their preferred language system, your message lands with much greater clarity and impact. You're literally speaking their language. Once you've established rapport by pacing their reality, you can then begin to lead them. You can gently shift your own physiology, and they'll subconsciously follow. You can guide them from an unresourceful state to a more positive one. This is the essence of all great leadership and influence. But even with perfect rapport, you'll discover that different people are motivated by fundamentally different things. To truly persuade effectively, you need to understand their unique mental filters, what Robbins calls metaprograms. Metaprograms are the internal software people use to sort and process their experiences. For example, some people are motivated by moving toward a goal. They're energized by what they'll gain: pleasure, success, rewards. Others are motivated by moving away from problems. They're driven to avoid pain, failure, and trouble. If you try to motivate a move away from person by talking enthusiastically about all the wonderful things they'll gain, it simply won't resonate. You need to frame it in terms of the problems they'll avoid by taking action. Another key metaprogram is frame of reference. Some people have an internal frame of reference. They know they've done a good job when it just feels right inside. They don't need outside validation. Others have an external frame of reference. They need feedback from others, praise, awards, measurable results, to know they've succeeded. If you tell an internally referenced person, "Everyone says you're doing a great job," it won't mean nearly as much as saying, "You must feel really proud of what you've accomplished." By understanding these and other metaprograms, you can tailor your communication to match the specific operating system of whoever you're speaking with. You can bypass resistance and speak directly to what genuinely motivates them. Finally, at the deepest level of our being, our lives are guided by our values. Values are what matter most to us in life: love, freedom, security, adventure, contribution. There are personal judgments about what makes life worth living. Everything we do in an attempt to move toward the emotional states we value and away from the ones we desperately want to avoid. The challenge is that most of us aren't consciously aware of our own value hierarchy. We don't really know what's most important to us. And this creates inner conflict and unhappiness. You might value both success and freedom, but what if your definition of success means working 80-hour weeks, and your idea of freedom means having time to travel and be with your family? That internal conflict will create constant frustration until you bring your values into alignment. To live a truly fulfilled life, you must first get crystal clear on what your highest values actually are. Then you must live your life in harmony with them. Real success isn't about achieving some external milestone. It's about the profound sense of wholeness that comes from knowing your actions are an authentic expression of your deepest self. This is what Abraham Maslow meant when he said, "A musician must make music, an artist must paint, a poet must write, if he is to be ultimately at peace with himself." The tools in this book, state management, belief transformation, modeling, rapport, understanding values, aren't just a random collection of techniques. They're a complete system for living a life of excellence. They give you the ability to get clear on what you genuinely want, the power to take effective action, the flexibility to adapt when something isn't working, and the wisdom to live in alignment with your deepest truths. And the ultimate purpose of all this power? Robbins concludes with a simple, profound truth. The secret to living is giving. True wealth and lasting happiness don't come from what you accumulate. They come from what you become and what you contribute. The skills of personal mastery aren't just for your own benefit. They're a gift meant to be shared, a force to be used to lift up the people around you, to make a genuine positive difference in your family, your community, and the wider world. That's the ultimate challenge and the ultimate reward of living a life of unlimited power. As we step back and look at the vast landscape of ideas within unlimited power, what truly stands out isn't just the collection of techniques, but the profound shift in perspective it offers. This book was written by a guy in his mid-20s, yet it carries the weight of genuine wisdom. Its central message is one of radical personal responsibility and empowerment. It's a bold declaration that we're not passive victims of our genetics, our past, or our circumstances. We're the directors of our own mental movies, the sculptors of our own emotional landscapes, and the captains of our own destiny. The most powerful lesson, at least for me, is the idea that excellence is a skill, not some inherited gift. Success isn't reserved for a lucky few who were born with special abilities. It's a process, a learnable strategy that can be mastered by anyone who's genuinely committed. This is an incredibly hopeful and democratic idea. It means your past doesn't have to determine your future. No matter where you are right now, you have within you the capacity to change, to grow, and to create the life you truly desire. The book challenges us to move beyond just positive thinking and into the realm of positive action. It's not enough to wish for a better life. You have to take control of the specific mental and physical mechanisms that actually create your results. The tools of NLP, like the swish pattern or changing submodalities, might sound a bit strange at first, but they're incredibly practical. They're essentially the user's manual for the human brain that we were never given in school. They demystify the process of change and make it a tangible, step-by-step procedure. So how can you start applying these powerful ideas in your own life, starting today? Let me offer 3 simple actions. First, for the next week, make a conscious commitment to mastering your physiology. The moment you feel yourself slipping into a negative or unresourceful state, frustration, boredom, worry, I want you to immediately change your body. Stand up tall. Breathe deeply and fully. Put a genuine smile on your face, even if you have to force it at first. Move your body with energy and purpose. Do this for just 2 minutes, and notice the radical shift in how you feel. Make this your personal reset button. Second, begin changing the questions you ask yourself. Our lives are fundamentally shaped by the questions we habitually ask. Instead of asking disempowering questions like, "Why does this always happen to me?" or "What's wrong with me?" start asking empowering questions. Ask yourself, "What can I learn from this? What's actually great about this situation? And most importantly, what do I want instead, and what can I do right now to move toward it?" This simple shift in focus will change the direction of your thoughts and, ultimately, your entire life. Third, get absolute clarity on one thing you want to achieve. Not 10 things, just one. Grab a piece of paper and write it down as a positive, specific outcome. Then write down all the reasons why you absolutely must achieve it. Why is it important to you? What will it give you? Make your reasons so compelling that they create a burning desire within you. This is the fuel for massive action. That was a summary of Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins. We've explored the highlights today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary can only ever be a map. The real treasure is found when you journey into the territory yourself. The true magic of a book like this happens in those quiet moments of reading, when a particular story or a simple phrase suddenly sparks a new understanding within you. This summary is your guide to help you decide if this is a journey worth taking. If anything we've talked about today has resonated with you, I genuinely encourage you to grab a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning. It's an experience that can genuinely transform the way you see yourself and the world around you. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It lets us know we're on the right track, and it ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book from the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep growing together.